over that position. So that is what it is. Once we give you a work permit to come and work here, we want you to pass over that knowledge that you have, that you possess, the skill that you possess, and that is apprenticeship, that after 5 years we can have a Ugandan in that position. So it's not that because the expatriates are coming, not that because we don't have experts here, but because we've not been in this industry before. This is the first time we're having it. You look for an expert in drilling, and you'll be surprised that the entire country you might find only one or two who have really been near a drilling rig in actuality, and most of them maybe have studied about it, but they have not operated one. So the more time you spend on a rig, for example, is the more experience you gain. And our project is so unique that we are developing our resource in a very biodiverse, eco-sensitive area. Some of the resources coming from areas that touch the park, areas that are near offshores of the lakes. So we don't want to make any mistake. So it is a very, very highly skilled enterprise that you don't want to mess around because you want to gamble. So I can assure you the numbers don't lie. And if I tell you 94% are Ugandans, even if you said they are only doing casual work, they can't be 94% only doing casual work. We have managers, we have people in high end. For example, the deputy managing director of Total Energies is a Ugandan. The deputy vice president of SINOC is a Ugandan. And you come down to the managers, the guys who are leading operations are all Ugandans. We have trained Ugandans. My colleague here is more skilled is more attached to the national content aspect. So he'll be giving you the numbers of the people we've trained and capacity we've built in Uganda, and you'll be surprised how much we've done in the few years that we've had the oil and gas sector in Uganda. So I can assure his jobs. Yesterday, I think, there was a graduation of welders by SINOC Uganda. Those are the guys who are going to work on the pipeline, as Herbert will explain further later on. But if you look at the numbers, they are so huge, and I can assure you where we are headed, there is no curse, but we are going to reap from this resource.
Herbert, local content, local communities, how are the communities especially? Let's start from the Vunyoro sub-region where this resource has been found. How are the people within that area benefiting from this resource, but also those who are near or who are affected by the pipeline from Hoima up to Tanzania?
Thank you so much, Emon, for that question. Indeed,
those people already experienced the disaster, or they are jubilating because of the blessing that came along with oil?
It is the latter, jubilating. Probably let's first look at it from the aspect of infrastructure. I don't know when you last went to Hoima and nearby places, but people who used to travel those places then, say 10 years ago, have a story to tell. For example, traveling from Hoima to places like Bulisa and others would take hours. Currently, thanks to the government's infrastructure, intensive and thorough infrastructure improvement plan, especially focusing on the oil roads. All roads surrounding these oil and gas projects have been improved, including Hoima town. Hoima town is looks very different. It's from what it was back then. So from an infrastructure point of view, especially if you're looking at roads, the people in Hoima now are enjoying good roads. They can move easily, they can move their goods, and which is a good thing, because when you facilitate movement, even their incomes and the local economies improve, because there's free movement of goods, and also services come closer, because it's easy for people offering services to move. Secondly, all the people that are able and are willing to offer some form of who can be employed, even if they are unskilled, get the first opportunity at all these projects. So if say you can do this simple building, simple construction, even things even things like driving these truck drivers, these caterpillars. Our projects give the local people first priority, and we have activities where we work with the local governments or local authorities to first identify and invite these people so that they can get employment from these ongoing projects. As we said, we want, our aim is to ensure that these projects change the lives of the people, especially the people who are nearest to these projects, and of course thereafter generally countrywide as these projects intensify. So the people are benefiting, and even if someone is not skilled enough to offer the smallest of to be hired for the smallest of activities, really, the people who are involved in agriculture, supplying items to these projects. The other day I was in Bolisa, where Total Energies is operating, and they were telling us about a farmer who, through the livelihood restoration project, underwent training on how to grow an improved breed of cassava called Narocas, which Total Energies is offering the people affected by the project. And this person is one of the big time suppliers of cassava to the Chilenga project. He is supplying them with cassava which the people are eating. So the people really are benefiting. We are enabling them to benefit.
All right.
And then it's not just in the upstream, Chilenga and Kingfisher, but even the ECOP where which you mentioned, along that route, we
Where do you displaced people?
well, unfortunately, the project of course has to continue, and so people have to be moved to enable the project to go on. But much as that is happening, the people get compensated. We are not moving people forcefully. There's a thorough process we go through to value their crops if they are using the land that is not theirs, to value their houses if they have houses on these projects.
Talking of the same compensation,
Yes,
Uganda is far different from Tanzania, and Tanzania is also a stakeholder in this project. But according to the law, or the laws of these two countries, Tanzania gets. Bintu will help us on that. Tanzania land is free and is for government. Government can use land anytime they want. But in Uganda, it is something different. Have the people of Uganda had the opportunity to be compensated fully?
I know you posed the question to my brother Kenneth.
Okay, you
but
can
allow
as
me,
well,
because it ties into what I was saying. So we compensate everyone.
Okay.
We are not taking anyone's land without going through the due process of valuing them, of educating them to know what we are taking, why we are taking it.
Do you decide how much you are supposed to give them? Or
Unfortunately,
you come to a round table and negotiate?
Unfortunately and probably fortunately for us, for reasons of impartiality,
How was the process?
these values are not determined by us, and which is a good thing, because that means that they get what is due to them. You must have heard about the office, the chief government valuer. So all these properties are valued by the chief government valuer. Our job and our counterparts in CNOC and Total Energies is to get all these properties and items thereon on the land, for example, crops, collect them and send everything to the chief government valuer, where these values are determined. And when an agreement is reached between the government and the property owners, payments are made in a very well laid out process. And this is, and it goes beyond payment, because like I said, we want to leave the people in a better state than we found them. We are enabling these people, facilitating them with financial literacy, because some of these people are getting money, all due respect, that they've probably never handled, and you know what money does. It causes excitement. So we don't want the people to get the money and buy a new car, or waste it doing all manner of things. So we've had them go through an intensive financial literacy process with Ugandan financial institutions to tell them, look, when you get the money, you can invest it in this and that, you so that you don't waste it, so it can grow and change your life as to ensure that you get what we want. And then, in addition to the financial literacy,
lastly,
we have livelihood restoration projects, and these are ongoing, and they're going to span some time until the people stabilize. We are giving them dry rations like maize flour. We are giving them rice. We are giving them beans, because remember, some of them are leaving their land where they used to grow their crops. So these livelihood restoration projects and programs are giving them some stability until a time when they have fully settled on their land and are able to get back to the status that they were in before we left them. And as I speak, remember, the entire ECOP route has about from Uganda all the way to Tanga, has over 13,000 people who are going to be affected by this project.
Okay.
And as of about 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, the percentage across in terms of compensation was about 94%.
Okay.
And then those who had signed forms to say, I agree, I have not been forced, I agree to move voluntarily and pave way for the project, were 97%.
Interesting. Thank you so much. Masaba, in seconds. Okay.
Maybe to add on, when we're looking at the issue of land, we need to appreciate that we've been dealing with 3 projects. First of all, we have the Tilenga project, which is the biggest. We have the Kingfisher project, and of course the ECOP that my brother has just mentioned. When you look at the persons affected by the project on the Tilenga project, we're talking about 5,574 people who are affected. As we speak, over 97% have been compensated. We also constructed houses for those who preferred to be relocated to real houses, because when we are doing compensation, we give you 3 options. 1, land for land. 2, money, or you choose to be constructed for, and then they buy for you another piece of land. So when you had a house before on your land, and you decide that I want my house somewhere else, we build you a better house than the one you're in, and you go to a better place. So when you look at the houses that have been so far constructed for people in Tilenga project, we're talking about 143 houses handed over. We are about 30 plus remaining that will be also constructed. And then we also have Kingfisher project, which had about 727 pups. The Kingfisher project is a little bit smaller compared to the Tilenga project, because the Tilenga project is going to produce at peak about, we are talking about 190,000 barrels of oil. So when you look at that project, it's a huge project. And then the Kingfisher project is a little bit small. It's a 1 oil field, and yet the Tilenga project's several fields that are going to be produced. So the Kingfisher project, we have about 727 pups. As we speak, all the people have been compensated 100%, and 64 primary residences. Those are people who prefer to have their houses constructed, have also gotten new houses. ECOP, they had about 177 houses along the ECOP corridor in Uganda. Out of the 3,684 pups, those ones are the ones who preferred to be built for. And as I speak, the 177 houses have all been constructed and handed over to the PAPs. So when you look at the issue of land, we've really handled it very well, much as, of course, there are delays. We had a delay because of COVID, which affected our progress. Then we also had delays. There's a time when negotiations were going on before the final investment decision was made. And this delayed the process of payment. But after that, the chief government valuer and government agreed that we need a top-up. So they made a top-up for everyone, a 15% uplift for every year that was delayed to compensate for the time lost after the cut-off date. Because there is what we call a cut-off date. Once the chief government valuer comes up with the rates, and then they hand over these rates to government, they tell you now you can stop using the land for purposes of, let's say, perennial crops. When we talk about perennial crops, we mean trees, things that take long to grow. Then they tell you don't now construct a new infrastructure on this piece of land because now we know what is going to be here. That means you'll only have things like cereal crops. These ones that grow in 3 months, 2 months. Those are the ones they will allow you to use, and no one is forced to leave their land until when they are fully compensated. And that is one of the aspects we ensure that is fulfilled, because we are following standards that are international. If there is any project that has really followed international standards and best practices, it's the oil and gas sector. And then we even have grievance handling mechanism that if for example, you have your piece of land and you feel the money that they are going to give you is not worth it, you can raise a complaint.
Oh, yeah.
The grievance handling mechanism, we have what we call resettlement action committees that are starting from the village level, we go to the parish level, we go to the sub-county level until the district level.
Why
now,
that bureaucracy? Is it in any way trying to delay the process?
No, we believe if we create a committee, because the committee is created by the people themselves in the village who are affected by the project. Now, that committee has a head. You select a head, and when you have a grievance, you go to that committee, because we believe we don't want to delay justice. And the easiest way to do it is come to the committee, raise your complaint. Once you raise your complaint, if the committee can't handle it at that level, then they forward it to the next level. Like a court system, you don't just start from the high court. You must
Considering the structures you've just mentioned, by the time someone comes from the RC1 up to the district, how far is the project going?
We believe, because
it is either delaying justice of the complainant or delaying the project itself.
Now, we believe that everyone should be compensated fairly. And that is why we have all those mechanisms, because we don't want a project to be there, but it's not owned by the people. So we want that social capital, because if you're going to gain social capital from the people, you must make sure that all these aspects are handled very, very critically well, because you've heard of incidences in other countries, like, for example, you hear people attacking these infrastructures and then vandalizing them. So if you don't do that, tomorrow you'll have a project that is not owned by the people, that is not benefiting the people, that is hated by the people, and what comes out is what you just talked about, the oil curse, and we don't want that, because we've been with this oil in the ground for all these years and we've not died. So would rather take time to compensate everyone and start off the project when everyone is pleased, when everyone is happy.
Interesting. Bintu, also still this is the last on the national content and linkages. I would love to see the role. Remember we're discussing my role, but this time I would love to see the role of the community. Apart from benefiting the community's employment and all the other projects that are involved within the sector of oil and gas, how are you connected, linked to these communities? Do they have any involvement? Have you involved them to passionately love the project, to preserve and protect all the resources and all the infrastructure and facilities that have been put in the communities? Because I believe when the community is not involved, you cannot work in isolation. How are you linked to these communities?
We have built a number of linkages to the communities. We've developed what we call community development plans, where we work together with the different stakeholders, Total, CNOC, as well as the contractors, to first of all ensure that the community is well sensitized of the upcoming projects, the opportunities for their participation, and that it's clear how these projects are going to impact the communities. So to do this effectively, we work very closely with the district leadership across all the project areas. And as we work hand in hand with the district leaders, the district commercial officers, we have we've implemented a number of projects, let's say, that are supposed to, first of all, empower the communities with knowledge, but also the capacity to participate. Some of these, we have a community supplier development program that is being run by Total and being implemented by Group E360, where they are ensuring that they empower across the 6 districts where the Tilenga project is working, from Bulisa to Hoima, Masindi, Chikube, Noya, Pakwach, that all those different district leaders, as well as the business community and the potential employees, know about the project, know about the different initiatives that the project is going to bring in place to benefit the community. And then as we also do that, we've also we've encouraged the different joint venture partners as well as contractors to carry out what we call corporate social responsibility initiatives that benefit the communities. So for example, you'll see that when you look at the Kingfisher area, that a hospital is being built and they are going to co-facilitate the doctors who are going to work in those medical facilities. Okay. So there are a number of initiatives. Then also for the ECOP districts, we have engaged all the 10 district leaders, and we've been working hand in hand in supporting us to, first of all, select beneficiaries for the different project initiatives. For example, where we have an initiative to build the capacity of businesses within the districts, we work with the district commercial officers. They support us in the selection of the beneficiaries, but also ensuring that after the trainings and the Totals have left, or the Petroleum Authority has left the district, they continue to ensure that there's sustainability of these initiatives that have been started.
All right.
Then we also have promoted linkages, because the oil and gas sector doesn't work in space. It works with a number of the other sectors. So we are promoting the other sectors alongside the oil and gas sector. So areas like real estate, because we are going to need a lot of accommodation. During the project implementation, we project to see over 1 million people coming in and out of the Albertine Graben to do different work. So even those will need accommodation. So we are working very closely with the real estate developers to see that they prepare and have accommodation. Also the logistics requirements to move these different people around. The agriculture to be able to feed, to meet the standards and requirements. So a number of initiatives really to ensure that the communities really benefit and support the project.
All right. Our dear listener from the other side of radio, we thank you for being part of us from the time we started up to this time in the second and first hour of this edition of Ground Zero. Ampaire Amonobtega is my name, and in the studios of UBC, I have a privilege and honor to have Yusuf Masaba, Corporate Affairs Officer, coming from Petroleum Authority of Uganda. And we also have Herbert Sentongo, Sempogo, is the Senior Corporate Affairs Officer, coming from Uganda National Oil Company. And we also have Bintu Peter Kenneth, is the Enterprise Development Officer, coming from Petroleum Authority of Uganda. We are talking about enhancing the performance of oil and gas sector in Uganda, and we are looking at everyone's role. My role as a citizen, the role of these companies, the role of Uganda's partner in this project, and also other stakeholders in the same. We are live and clear on 4 radio stations covering entire Uganda. We are on 98.0 FM, that is UBC Radio, In Kampala and in Arua, you can get us on 97.4 FM. When you are in Lida, if you are in Lida, we are 99.4 FM. If you are in Butebo and eastern parts of this country, we are connected to another radio called Butebo Radio in the eastern parts of this country, located in Butebo. If you are in Mbale, we are 96.9 FM. If you are in Soroti, we are 98.4 FM. If you are in Arua, we are 95.8 FM. And if you are in West Nile, actually Lango, Karamoja, and Teso sub-regions, we are on another radio station popularly known as West Nile Radio. And we are live and clear on Magic 100 FM in the central parts of this country. Ground Zero is going to take a very short break, and we're coming back in just a bit with the second part or the second hour of this edition. In the second hour is when we get your feedback, your queries and questions to be addressed in this program, and you're going to reach us on 776-511-426. The number to call is 0776-511-426. You're going to call and raise your concern, question, or any compliment or any query. What do you think needs to be done to develop the oil and gas sector in Uganda to make it a blessing, not a disaster? What are the queries, what are the questions that you would love to ask my panelists and the guests in the studios? But also you can send your message on 0701 24 26 47. Keep your messages coming through. I'll be reading one by one. This is UBC Ground Zero. We're taking a very short break. I pray that you don't have to go away. We're coming back.
It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about it. Nobody should. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the customer tenure system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero Season 2, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
At UBC Radio, all our radio network across the country is committed to inform, entertain, educate and guide for national transformation.
Our own radio, UBC, should set its own example. Leka bano abatafa ku bantu baffe bagumaza ndowooza muganda kito okugumaza to divert people. Let our own UBC bring programs to educate the people so that abagala kugumaza babeereyo bagumaza naye naffe they can advise, guide. And people in time will judge the one who is their friend and who is just using them.
Tune into UBC Radios for credible socio-economic programs. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about it. Nobody should. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the customer tenure system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero Season 2, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda. Welcome back. Ground Zero Season 2 continues.
Welcome back from that very short break. This is UBC Ground Zero. We're broadcasting live on 4 radio stations, UBC Radio, and in the whole country. And we're also live and clear on Butebo Radio, covering eastern parts of this country. We are also live and clear on Western Nile FM, covering Teso sub-region, Acholi and Lango sub-regions, Karamoja and Western Nile sub-regions. We're also live and clear on Magic 100 FM, covering central parts of this country. Abaide Amon Ortega is my name, and we're talking about enhancing the performance of the oil and gas sector in Uganda. What is my role? And in the studios of UBC, I have a privilege and honor to have Bintu Peter coming from Petroleum Authority of Uganda, is the Enterprise Development. We have Herbert Sempogo, is the Senior Corporate Affairs Officer coming from Uganda National Oil Company, and also privilege and honor to have Yusuf Masava, the Corporate Affairs Officer coming from Petroleum Authority of Uganda. This is UBC Ground Zero. It's your time to call us and raise your concern on 776-511-426 or send your messages on 0701 24 26 47. In this sector, I mean in this part, we are going to look at someone sends a message from this is Kawempe. I think it is Kawempe, and you're saying this is Joram. If we talk about oil in Uganda, how much are we looking up to, and for how long? Joram from I think it is Kawempe, but put Kawente, and also Beth from Seguku says this is a very new sector that we need to handle with a lot of care. I believe if we don't handle with care, we may face a lot of more challenges than the benefits that we are looking up to. Keep your messages coming through. I'll be reading one by one and also receiving calls. UBC Radio, call me again on 0776-511-426. Someone says, Jerem from Kawempe, how much oil are we looking up to and for how long is it going to last? Is it a 5-year project and we are going to have no more oil here? Or it is a forever project, it is a forever drilling, it is a forever business? Oil company, since you are the ones who are drilling.
Thank you so much. I didn't get the name, but I think the listener is from...
it's called Joram.
Thanks, Joram, from Kawempe. The question regarding how much oil. Excuse me. Thus far, the oil that is confirmed to be available in the Albertine Graben is 6.5 billion barrels of oil, of crude oil. Now, because of the nature of the places in the ground where this oil is located, all the 6.5 billion barrels of crude oil, unfortunately, cannot be recovered.
If you may allow me for some seconds. UBC?
Yes, UBC.
You are live and clear?
Yes, I'm live and clear. This is Ofon Matunus, all from Tororo.
Ofono?
Yes, Ofon Matunus from Tororo, that's the eastern part of Uganda.
Okay, thank you for being part of us.
You are welcome.
Your concern, please?
My concern is for us to develop or to make our oil and petroleum very, very successful. We need to go away with corruption. Yeah, because the corruption is the one delaying us when to that oil to what? To start.
Okay.
Yeah, because there are some other people. I hear they have not paid in what in their land where they are drilling oil. So I think the corruption is the main thing. We should go with the corruption. So that's my goal.
Corruption within the sector, people stealing oil or the money for oil.
Okay, within the sector, even the official from the government, most of them are corrupt.
All right. Thank you for now, and greetings to the people of Tororo and the neighboring communities.
Thank you, man.
All right.
Thank you. I'm from Tororo.
All right, from Tororo. All right. People of Tororo raising a number of concerns, especially corruption, which is always a problem in this country, which waters down all the achievements that we have realized as a country. Yes, Pongo, you may continue. How much oil we have?
6.5 billion barrels of oil. Now, out of this, we can recover, because of the nature of the rocks or reservoirs, which are located in rocks where this oil is, we can recover about 1.4 to 1.7 billion barrels of crude oil. And this is what now this is where we are drilling to ensure that we get this. Now, the estimates are that we will be able, when production starts, we will be able to have oil that will span close to 25 years from the current discovery. And really, that should be able to get the country some really, really substantial amount of money that would come into the country's coffers. Now, Uganda is a very, very gifted country in that there have been signs which are called SIPs in I think the language of the geologists. There have been signs, oil seeps have been seen in other parts of the country, other than where it has been confirmed that oil is available and is going to be extracted or produced. And some of these areas you've had the Kadam Basin in Karamoja and other areas. And these are areas where other work is going to happen to confirm that the oil is indeed there. You've heard that the Ugandan National Oil Company during the recent second licensing round got a block, an oil and gas block called Kasuruban. Kasuruban is a name. It's gotten from a fish that is endemic in Lake Albert. And the block straddles Hoima, Masindi, Bolisa, and nearby areas. And what we are going to do there as a national oil company is to do further exploration studies and other activities to confirm the availability of oil and gas resources. And if we indeed do, and we are positive that we will, this will increase our resource base, meaning that the oil then would be able to take us beyond the 25 years and probably stretch up to maybe 50 and probably further beyond that, and which would be good news, because then the country will be able to benefit much further beyond the initial 25 years, which is projected for the 1.7 or rather 1.4 to 1.7 recoverable billion barrels of crude oil.
Maybe in the same, Samuel from Kono says, how much are we drilling if the process starts per day, and how much are we looking up to in a month and a year? Can it really accommodate the population of Uganda?
Thank you, Samuel, for the question. So, like we said, there are two key projects in the upstream. One is the Tilenga that sits mainly in Bulisa and Noya district, and Tilenga, we are joint venture partners with CNOOC, Uganda Limited, and Total Energies, E&P Uganda. Now, there, a total of 190,000 barrels of crude oil will be produced per day when we get to the time of production. And then in the other upstream project, which is the Kingfisher project, where we are joint venture partners with CNOOC Uganda Limited and of course Total Energies Limited, Total Energies E&P Uganda, that one is planned to produce 40,000 barrels of crude oil per day. Now, when you add this, we get to 230,000 barrels of crude oil per day that we are going to produce when production starts. Now, you talked about something that sounded like domestic consumption. Studies were done recently when Uganda thought about the commercialization plan, and so, which is two-pronged, by the way, domestic and export. And a study was done to kind of understand how much petroleum products are consumed locally. And it was determined to be about 6 million liters of petroleum products used here. And so that was used to do a bit of a projection to know how much we can consume locally and in the region in the near future. Right. And because of that, it was determined that a refinery that would refine 60,000 barrels of crude oil per day be set up, and that is the basis of the refinery, which is one of our key projects as UNOC. And so out of the 230 that is going to be produced from the two key projects, Tilenga and Kingfisher, it will come to the refiner, to the Kabalega Industrial Park, where it will converge, and then 60 will be deducted for the refinery, and then the rest will be exported through the East African crude oil pipeline to get to the international market.
All right. On the same, Bintu?
Maybe to just simplify for our listeners to understand, a barrel for us in oil and gas, we use a barrel as a
Is it a jerrycan?
As a measurement. That's where I'm coming to. A barrel is a drum. That drum that you normally see, people have read books, those small.
How many liters?
So we are talking about 147 liters a barrel. So if you're talking about 230 barrels per day, 1,000 barrels per day, we are talking about, if you do a quick mathematics, the calculation, it will give you about 33 million. That's what we'll be producing daily. If you're talking about liters. If you put that in liters, then you can understand that one barrel is equivalent to about 147 liters. Those are about, how many jerrycans are those? About 4 jerrycans or 20 liter jerrycans. So you get that calculation, then you can now see how many liters.
Some good amount of oil that is here.
So, but that is crude that we are talking about. And that
are we going to get less than that or much more after the
we anticipate. Right now, the technology that is on the market can only allow us to do that, and at an optimization level. So once we get better technology, probably in the near future, we anticipate that we shall produce more than that. And as he stated earlier on, more exploration is going on. So we also anticipate that we shall have more blocks coming on the system, and then we shall have more oil probably discovered and then more produced. That is the anticipation, because
you had helped us
we are talking
lower
about
down
only
the calculation.
Yes.
And in terms of a drum and a barrel and how many liters. Looking at the same drum of oil, how much
in terms of money?
In terms of purified petroleum.
Do you get
how much are we expecting from one drum?
Now that becomes a little bit hard. If you
is it a jerrycan, because you are going through a lot of
once you get that crude oil, the first level you go to is what we call a central processing facility. Now the central processing facility cleans that oil. That removes, because when you drill oil out of the ground, it comes with a lot of impurities. There is gas, there is water that has been used for drilling. We have probably mud. So all those things, you have to separate them. Then you remain with clean crude. Now the clean crude, part of it will
which is reduced in amount.
Of course, now if you remove, I'm now talking about the crude alone. Once you clean the crude from the central processing facility, part of it, as Uganda, we shall take it to the refinery that is going to be developed it's a place called Kabale, but it's going to, and it's right now it's called the Kabalega Industrial Park in Hoima. Then the rest will be channeled into the pipeline, the East African crude oil pipeline, that will take it to the international market. Now, when it goes to a refinery, it's a complex activity that it undergoes. Because you see, when you get crude and then put it in a refinery will give you several products. One is what we call jet fuel, that is used for jet planes. We have kerosene, we have petrol, we have diesel, we have bitumen that is used for road construction. You've seen grease, you have plastics, all those are
We're
byproducts.
going to get all those products from
Yes,
our oil here.
that's why it's called an industrial park. Now, you see, when industrial park has a refinery, other subsidiary industries will come up, or factories will be established to use the byproducts that are coming off the oil and gas. If you look at your studio right now, 90% is oil. 90% is a byproduct of oil, because we're talking about plastics, we're talking about cables that are made from everything, these mattresses, everything, the sponge you're seeing is all
these are products of
yes,
oil.
all those are products of oil. So it's a multifaceted industry that once you get it, you'll take off. The problem you see now Uganda facing most times is envy. People are envying our project because, one, if Uganda takes off and you have your oil, the president has always stated it that once we have this project and it's going on, Uganda will not be the same, because we are hinging our development a lot on the oil and gas sector, and that's why we are holding it like a baby, and we've held it since 2006 when this resource was discovered. Right now we are talking about development, and in 2025 we hope production is there. For the listeners who are listening out there, probably to give them an update on what is happening right now currently, in the Tilenga project, okay, let me start with the Kingfisher project.
Which is bigger?
The smaller one. I'm starting with the smaller one.
The smaller one.
On 24th January, the president launched what we call spudding. Now, spudding is kind of breaking the ground to start drilling. Now, we are drilling these wells in preparation for production. Now, we started the drilling of wells. And as I speak, 2 wells have been completed. They are moving to the 3rd well. And we are going to have about 36 wells are going to be drilled on the Kingfisher project. Then when we go to the Tilenga project, we are looking at 426 wells that are going to be drilled. As I speak, in June this year...
Are wells the same as fields?
Fields are different. Oil fields are different, because a field is a kind of an area that is gazetted. Now, for example, let's say we have...
So in a field we can have so many wells.
Thank you. Now, in a field we can have several wells. And those wells, some of them are producer wells, others are injector wells. So when you have a producer well and an injector well, it means one is being used to feed, you feed into it water, and then the other one produces the oil. Because the oil underground is in what we call reservoirs. Now, these reservoirs are supposed to be interconnected. That's why you have several wells on what we call well pads. A well pad is kind of a field that you've demarcated, and you say, I'm going to produce from this. So you start all your operations from that particular well pad. So we are talking about 426 wells that are going to be worked on. Before 2025, we hope that over 70 wells would have been drilled, and then to start off the production. We are talking about 5 oil fields. When we talk about oil fields, you understand what we're talking about.
The areas where the oil is
going to be produced from. And we expect, as I told you, 190 barrels of oil per day at peak. When I speak about peak, it means at highest, the highest level you can go. But we shall start, of course, you can't say that every day the production will be the same. The portfolio keeps changing depending on which well you're producing from, so that keeps changing. Now, in the Tilenga project, right now, we are having what we call the clearance of the central processing facility, the area that I told you that is going to be used to clean the oil first. Now, the central processing facility, that Tilenga Industrial Park is going to have the central processing facility, what we call the drilling support base and the construction support base. Over 30,000 people have to be in that camp. So construction is going on. We also have the drilling has also started. The actual drilling of the wells has also started. And as I speak, I think they have drilled about 2 wells on the Joby 5 well pad. And then they are also starting off because the wells in Tilenga are on both the northern and southern part of the Nile. So others are across, that is in Noya district, and then others are in Bulisa district. So that is the Tilenga project. That's why it's so huge. And production is expected also, of course, to begin in 2025. We have 3 rigs that are operating in the Tilenga project. As we speak, 2 are already up and operating. The 3rd rig will be, I think, launched later on in October. We hope that it also start working. And as I can speak right now, a lot of activities going on with one goal to ensure that our oil by 2025 gets out of ground. And we start
so by
seeing the
2025, we
petrodollar.
are going to have our first drop of oil.
That is our target, to ensure that by 2025 we have our first barrel of oil dropping out.
Bintu, Opio says that this project seems to be good, but according to how you have named it, it seems to have been sold. Why would name our own resources after the foreign names like Kingfisher? Why not have our African or Ugandan names?
It's a bad name.
Well, to clarify, Kingfisher is not really a foreign name. Kingfisher is named after a bird, the Kingfisher bird, which does a lot, where there are very many Kingfisher birds in the Albertine Graben. So these projects are actually named after our indigenous areas. So when you look at the Tilenga is named after a fish, and then the kob. So these are actually community-based project names. When you look at the Kabale industrial area, it has been renamed to the Kabalega International Industrial Park. So all these...
The king.
Yes, after the King Kabalega. So these projects are actually being named after indigenous projects and things that are happening within our communities. And so, to allay the fears, no project has been sold. We are partnering with international firms because of their capability and experience, so that we partner and get this resource out of the ground to benefit us. But it has not been sold.
Interesting. Let me get back to you, Yusuf.
Yes, please.
So many players in this, so many companies, also even the shareholders. We have from the regional level, Albert is a shared resource with the Democratic Republic of Congo, and now we have the Republic of Tanzania coming in, where we're going to do, is it a refinery from? How are we sharing this resource?
Thank you very much. Maybe to start with Tanzania that we are currently working with.
Do you have percentages going up to these countries?
Tanzania is a partner in the development of what we call the East African Crude Oil Pipeline. ECOP. And through its company, the Tanzanian Petroleum Development Authority, TPDA, it has shares in the oil. It has shares in the pipeline, and we are talking about 15% shareholding. Uganda has 15% shareholding, and then Total Energies has 62, and then 8% is for Sinok Uganda Limited. Now, the project that we are developing with Tanzania is a transportation means. So this is a car we own together, because we need to take our oil from the upstream to of course, to the international market. Now, you see, when you're producing, let's say you have your farm of matoke, and you need to bring that matoke to a Kampala market. You need means of transport. Now, we came up, Uganda brought an idea and said, you know what, we need to take this matoke to the international market, but we have to pass through your place, your land, and we are passing through Tanzania, because we are in a landlocked country. We need to reach the coast. So we tell Tanzania, can you also invest in this venture of transport? They said, yes, why not? So they're also investing in this venture, and they'll also be getting a share through how much they... Of course, if you invest 15%, when you're sharing capital, when you're sharing profits, you also you get the profit
of the same,
of how much you invested in.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Now, you go back to DRC Congo. We share Lake Albert with DRC Congo. And when you see Congo and Uganda, even the if you look at the blocks we are developing, we have a feeling some of them could cross over. But as a country, we have an understanding with DRC that we are going to ensure that if we have a block that is cutting across both Uganda and DRC, we can develop together. But we are yet to have one. DRC has not started undertaking intensive works like the ones we are undertaking in Uganda, but we have an understanding, an MOU with them on issues of security, because it's a very fragile area. You know that anytime rebels can attack. We don't want such incidences to happen to our project. So we have an understanding with them and a cooperation with them.
All right.
Yeah.
I was also going to ask you, how are other members in the East African community benefiting from the project, like Kenya or Tanzania? I mean, like Kenya and Burundi, which are far different from this resource. Are they in any way benefiting indirectly?
What we did is when we are starting on when the refinery project was being started, we floated this idea, because the idea of the refinery came out of, you remember, the Northern Corridor coalition of the willing. It sat and said we need to get this captive market. We can't be exporting all the crude, and yet one of the biggest things that I love about our president is he has always demanded that we add value to our resources and not just export. He's against exporting raw materials. And you look at the captive market in East Africa, you look at Southern Sudan, Western DRC, Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya itself, and Tanzania.
All right.
Instead of benefit, so we brought this idea to them, and I think there is still an opportunity for them to invest in the refinery.
Okay.
Right now, we are looking for joint ventures. Once we get them, because you know what happened, we had an understanding with the Albertine Graben Consortium, which unfortunately expired. That project agreement we had, project framework agreement that we had with them, expired on 30th June.
Okay.
So that means, but they have done quite a lot of work.
All right.
Herbert will later on expound on that.
Okay.
But the other partners in East Africa are all welcome, and I think they will come through and they will invest in the refinery.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Time is not really on our side. We have a very few minutes to end this discussion, and yet we still have a number of issues to address. Herbert, Uganda as a country is only getting 15% according to yourself, whereas TAL is getting 60-something plus percent. Other countries are getting also 15. Uganda and outside there may think, we've been cheated. We have the resource, we have invested in this resource. This is our cow that we have given birth, and we have treated, we have fed, and when it is time for milking, we only get 15 or even 15 liters when someone is going to take 50 60 plus liters. Are we being cheated in this way, or that's how things are supposed to be working? Herbert?
Thank you so much for the question. Indeed, it's true. That's our our shareholding in the three key projects, and really the shareholding as it is when you're investing is in part based on your financial muscle. How much you have will determine how much you inject in a project in which you're partnering with other people. However, that said, our involvement or partnership with the joint venture partners in the key projects is determined by agreements. Now, in the upstream, it's mainly governed by the production sharing agreements, which specify and guide how the proceeds are going to be shared. And now, in these agreements, and they've been peer reviewed by institutions like the World Bank, IMF, and others. Uganda's PSAs have been deemed to be some of the best, because Uganda will be getting a lot of value from its oil to ensure that it benefits, and the PSAs lay out how the proceeds from oil are going to be shared by the other by the investors, but also the government or Uganda as the owner of the resources. And indeed, it has been proven that Uganda is going to get much more than the 15% investment that it is making. Remember, we are going to tax these companies, but also we are getting a substantial investment. We are talking about an investment of about $20 billion US. It's the biggest investment that Uganda has ever had. It has never happened here for the key 3 projects. That's East African Crude Oil Pipeline, the Kingfisher, and then the Tilenga. Right. So this investment has a ripple effect that is going to stimulate other sectors of the economy, and will have a ripple effect, across, which will boost the growth and development of the country.
So we weren't cheated, To be,
no.
To be given 15%.
Maybe let me clarify this. When we talk about the 15% shareholding in
yet
the
we
pipeline,
own the resource, we have invested
now,
in this resource.
You see,
at least we will be given half of it. 50% will be fair for the country.
This is it. You might decide to invest in the car that takes your matoke to Kampala, or you may not decide to do that. Now, depending on how much money you have and how much interest you have in a car, you can decide not to invest in it. So in actual sense, for us, we still own our matoke. The matoke is still ours. But the car that is going to take the matoke to Kampala is where we invested only 15%.
Is it fair for a transporter to take 60%?
The transporter is the owner of the car. My interest...
And I own the matoke.
Yes, my problem is when I market and I sell my matoke, I pay you what we call a transportation tariff. Now, that is where it comes in now. The tariff that we agreed upon is what we shall be giving the company that owns the ECOP, the oil pipeline. Now, Uganda, being a strategic country, said, okay, fine, this is a strategic, it's a strategic, first of all, it's a strategic plan, and then the infrastructure itself, you can't just let only foreigners own such a strategic infrastructure. So you say, okay, let me also at least have 15% in this project. But actually, for us, when it comes to because you remember we talked about the upstream and the midstream.
So the 15% is also...
so the 15% we are talking about...
Participation, but also the profit. It is according to how much you...
Thank you.
Your input determines your output.
Now, you see, if I invested 15% in this car and I pay, still the profit that will come, the small profit that will come is 15%, but it's okay. Because
so you don't consider who owns the car or who owns the product. Anyway, that is another discussion for another day. I would love to engage Bintu. Is so much into enterprise development. I would love to know, and many other Ugandans who are on the other side of radio, how many industries are we developing from this sector, especially in this country?
Well, there are very many industries that are being developed as a result of the oil and gas sector. So I'll start with, first of all, the oil and gas service companies, which we are trying to request, or we are working hand in hand to see that they domicile in country. Instead of having to import most of their key inputs or key requirements for the oil and gas products in Uganda, we are encouraging the companies to set up shop in Uganda. That way it will, first of all, bring investment within the country, but also create jobs for our Ugandans.
All right.
And then also now, as we build the capacity of Ugandan enterprises to be able to supply the oil and gas sector. We share the standards that are recognized for oil and gas products as well as services.
Okay.
Now we are seeing that our Ugandan companies are getting internationally certified as a result of these interventions. We are seeing more and more Ugandan companies being certified. We are seeing these companies scale their operations to be able to now do business, not just in Uganda, but also within the region.
Thank you.
So companies that were formerly, before the interventions, that were formerly maybe just targeting a few hundred clients have now grown and are starting to look at the whole country as well as the region.
Okay, thank you so much. Masaba, something that is developing and coming up and affecting everyone in this country, and it has risen a number of concerns and fears among Ugandans especially. The World Bank rejecting Uganda or not borrowing Uganda anymore. Is this in any way going to affect your performance in the oil and gas sector?
Thank you. Once again, the World Bank. Okay, I don't want to go there because I'm not an expert in matters.
But
of
this is the
economics.
money that is coming in the country.
The money that is coming in the
and you're a
country.
government agency.
First of all, as a government agency, we get funding from government directly. From the consolidated fund. That's where we get our money. Two, the investment that is coming in Uganda is coming from a private sector. The companies have what we call equity. Now, the companies we are talking about are among the 500 Forbes listed companies, some of the richest companies and the most profitable companies in the world. We are talking about Total Energies. And Total Energies and Sinop International is the biggest. Total Energy is the biggest company, I think, in Europe. And then Sinop is also the biggest in China. So these companies have equity that they're investing here. So they are not going to borrow money from the World Bank. So it won't affect us in any way. And even when we go to ECOP is also getting equity from, part of it is coming from Uganda here. And then the shareholders also contribute. And I can assure you that the shareholders have assured us that they have secured funding. And anytime the issue of funding for the ECOP will also be completed, as we also look for partners to develop the refinery. So I can assure you it's not about the World Bank not giving us money. No.
Okay.
It wasn't even among the priorities of the people who would give us equity. So this is a business venture, profit oriented. These guys come here to do business, and there is no one you're going to find coming to Uganda for charity if we are talking about these big companies. So we don't have to worry about our project, and we should just pray that our project is executed in time so that we can stop relying probably more on the debt financing that is coming in from such institutions like the World Bank.
Okay, based also on the profit they are getting, 62% and above. They won't risk losing the project. How about, let's look lastly on this. We cannot forget about the environment, the climate change, and the consequences that may come along with the oil and gas sector. How are you addressing the environmental protection and conservation, not destruction?
Thank you so much, Emon, for that question. As I said earlier, one of our a segment of our mandate is to ensure sustainability while we are doing our work, so that the people who are going to live in Uganda when we are gone find a rather usable environment. Indeed, for us as UNOC, one of our core values is concern for the environment. Accordingly, all the projects that we are doing with our joint venture partners undergo thorough assessments before they begin. These assessments, to be precise, are called environmental social impact assessments, Asia, ESIA. Now, what these studies do is to try and determine what the potential impacts on the environment are likely to be, and if they are going to be there, what can be done, environment and the people, and if there are potential impacts, what can be done, or mitigation measures to ensure that the environment and its components are not adversely affected. And the Tilenga had an Asia done, ESIA, Kingfisher had an ESIA done, and the East African Crude Oil Pipeline had an ESIA done here and in Tanzania, and they were approved by the authorities, and they said we are happy, please go ahead. Even the other key projects that are ongoing, for example, the refinery has had an ESIA done, it's going to be finalized. The entire park, the Kabalega Industrial Park, has a regional ESIA that is being done, and all the other projects that we are doing. And this is done to ensure that we do not impact the environment. And
someone would think that you have already impacted, because where the pipe is, the pipes have been laid, you have dug and removed soil, you have cut down trees, you have where you are drilling water from, the oils, you have done all those projects that drilling and reconstruction and all the other effects that may come along with that. But also on the other side, you are doing all these projects on lake shores, and some are already in the lake. Are you not tampering the lake? And later we face the consequences that may come along with that from tampering the nature and also the lake.
Okay, thanks, Amon. Let me start with the lake. True, some of our reservoirs are below the lake, not in, below the bed. Yes. So how we are getting
which
there?
I may call the shores of the lake.
So how we are getting under the lake is we are using technology called deviated directional drilling, whereby we get to the reservoirs off the land, and then we get to the reservoirs without having contact with the water and any organisms that live within the water. And we are being very cautious, monitoring and using independent organizations and institutions that have expertise in this kind of work to ensure that we do not affect the water and whatever lives there. Right. And this also applies not only to the upstream project, but also to the ECOP, which will cross about 3 or 4 sensitive ecosystems. We are going to use the directional drilling, where we'll go below the bed of the ecosystems.
Thank you.
But
Thank
also,
you.
additionally,
lastly, in seconds,
just give me
time is not on our side.
Give me a few seconds, like you say. We have restoration programs whereby when we are done with an area, we are done with the work that we are doing, we restore.
Have you considered the planting trees in places where you have destroyed trees?
Thank you. And as UNOC, we have a plan which has already started to plant 40 million trees countrywide, including in our project areas, to ensure that we contribute to restoring of the environment so that it's not adversely affected by these ongoing activities. And probably finally, our projects have been deemed as among those with the lowest carbon footprint. We've been said we will have about 13% of carbon emissions per barrel compared to about, I think, 30 across Africa.
Thank you. Let me get the other side. Hello?
Yes, moderator, please.
Your name, please?
I'm called Bosco from Namwongo.
Bosco Namwongo. Your concern?
Yes. I just want them to give us their numbers, because there are some of the issues we want to talk to them. Like for me, I need a job. I have to consult them.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Where is expertise, or do you have any skills? Maybe they can start from there.
I have skills.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
I hope you will get in touch with them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
A number of Ugandans also are trying to tap into the opportunities that are within the sector. Gentlemen, time is not on our side. We have a few minutes to end the program. But before we end the program, I would love to start with Bintu. You give your way forward, your last remarks, but also in the same context, I heard that you have a 90 days of media campaign. What entails in this, the scope, the areas of your operation, why start this campaign, why did you start it, and when is it ending, who are the stakeholders involved in all this, what are the objectives you likely or you would have to realize or achieve. Yeah, from there, you have only 1 or 2 minutes.
Thank you. So the 90 days of oil and gas is an annual campaign that is run by the different stakeholders in the oil and gas industry, running from the joint venture partners, the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, the Petroleum Authority, the Uganda National Oil Company. And the key thing is to try and ensure that people get to appreciate where the projects are, where the opportunities are, and appreciate basically what is happening in the sector. Now, in regards to tapping into the sector, like Bosco was requesting, we have 2 systems where I'd like to encourage Ugandans to tap into. If you're a Ugandan company or a company that would like to do oil and gas business, the first requirement is that you register on the National Supplier Database, and this is available on our website. When you go to the PAU website, www.pau.go.ug, you'll be able to register on the National Supplier Database. If, like Bosco, you have your skills, you have your experience, your qualifications, please register on the National Oil and Gas Talent Register so that you can be able to see which opportunities are coming up. You put in there your qualifications, because on the talent register we have over 102 oil and gas companies that are recruiting from the talent register.
Your last comment?
My last comment is I encourage Ugandans to organize, prepare, and tap into these opportunities because they are happening now. Let's take advantage and maximize the value to us as Ugandans.
All right.
Thank you.
How about Sempogo?
Thank you so much. I think my last statement probably would be to thank the listeners for tuning in and the questions, but also probably to give them our contacts. UNOC is located right here in Kampala, plot 15 Yusufule Road, open 8 to 5 o'clock. You can call us on 0312 444 600. You can also reach out to us on our social media, Twitter at UNOC_UG. We are on LinkedIn as UNOC Limited, and then probably you can get us on the website and any other communication channels. We are ready to help you, support you to tap into any opportunities that are available for either registered companies that have all the requisite documentation and or people who are seeking other opportunities like employment.
All right. Interesting. Masaba?
Thank you. First of all, for the opportunity to be on a national radio. I respect you, BC, because I now know everyone is listening in. And I want to, first of all, tell Ugandans and assure Ugandans that the oil and gas sector is here. It has come to stay. If you thought it was still in words, it is now in action. The developments are ongoing. We have progressed from what we call the exploration phase, and now we're in the development phase and preparing for the last phase, which is production, before we touch the petrodollar. Someone wanted to know how best they can get to us. Right now we are located in Entebbe on what we call the Petroleum House on Johnson Street. or Johnson Road. If you want to reach us after the zoo, you continue ahead, you'll see the Petroleum House on Johnson Road. You can also reach us on phone 0417 896 600. Those are the lines. You can also email us on ed@pau.go.ug, but you can also find everything that we've been talking about today on our social media handles, on our website, and everywhere. We have a lot of material. Please don't hesitate to check out on all those platforms, but also register on the National Supplier Database that my colleague hinted on. And also, if you're looking for a job, don't hesitate to look at the NOCTR. Otherwise, thank you very much for hosting us. It's been a pleasure being here today.
I also must thank you for sparing time to come to educate, to inform and inspire the people of Uganda here on UBC Radio and all the other radio stations that we've been connected on. And it was a privilege to have Yusuf Masawa, the Corporate Affairs Officer coming from Petroleum Authority of Uganda. We also had been to Peter Kenneth, Enterprise Development Officer, coming also from Petroleum Authority of Uganda. And also had the privilege and honor to have Herbert Sempogo, is the Senior Corporate Affairs Officer, coming from Uganda National Oil Company. And we've been talking about enhancing the performance of oil and gas sector in Uganda, looking at my role. Either in the company or individual or a state capacity, we've been talking about, and I believe that you have picked a leaf from our discussion. We've been connected to 4 radio stations, and we thank you all who have been part of the show from the time we started up to this time that we have to end the program. As you've heard from my guests in the studios, there are so many opportunities that you may come and tap on, and from this very sector, it is a very prominent and promising sector that we call upon Ugandans not only to come and benefit, but also have your contributions. Mbaire Amon Otega is my name, and this is UBC Ground Zero. Until next time, same program, same station, and different topic and perhaps different guests. For God and my country, allow me now to sign out.
That was Ground Zero Season 2, a production of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, UBC, inspiring Uganda. It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know it.
It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about it. Nobody showed. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land